Joining us is the Shadow Home Affairs Minister, Karen Andrews. Karen, since we last spoke, as you know, I'm sorry to have to go here again, but here we are. An inquiry now follows the Solicitor General's report into Scott Morrison. Do you support that?
Look, I'm very keen to hear what this inquiry may well be about. I would have thought that there was sufficient information already available for us to all move to the next point, which is to make sure that this never, ever happens again. So I've never been in favour of endless inquiries. I've always been in favour of making sure that we get an outcome, and I do think that there is sufficient information there now. Look, and I think that the other thing we need to be very much aware of is that the Albanese government is running the risk that they are going to continue to pursue this issue. They'll milk it, obviously, for everything that they possibly can, and ultimately Australians will get sick of this and go, well, you should have fixed this and you should have been concentrating on things that are important to us. So it is a fine line for the Albanese government, and I hope they do focus on what's best for Australians.
Sure, yeah, it is ultimately the Prime Minister's call here, but what, in your view, should the nature of the inquiry be?
Well, I'm not even convinced at this point that there needs to be any further inquiry, because I think that there is sufficient information already at hand to be able to deal with the issue, which is to make sure that it never happens again. I'm absolutely in favour of transparency, and my views have been very public in relation to this issue, and I just think we need to move on now and deal with the outcome and make sure that it does never, ever happen again.
I guess the former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, he indicated yesterday that more people may have been in the know here. He identified different people in different departments. So in a way, the net has to be cast a lot wider than it currently is. Do you think it needs to go wider, though? There's more questions to answer.
Look, there's no doubt that more than the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister at the time and the Governor-General knew about this. So what's the point in going further and try and find out who knew what, when the issue really is what needs to be done to make sure that it never happens again? Now, I've been very clear that I didn't know about the changes that were made in respect of the portfolio that I held, but I'm very focused on making sure that we get onto the nitty-gritty and make sure that this never happens again. And look, and Labor is clearly at risk of escalating this to the point that they lose the Australian people. I mean, the comments that were made about this would never have happened if Australia was a republic was such a stretch. It was nonsensical. So I'm very happy that Labor has ceased to talk about that. But let's focus on the issues at hand. We know enough to deal with this issue. Let's get on with the things that are affecting Australians every day.
OK, since we last spoke, Scott Morrison has apologised to you. Did you find it genuine?
Yes. Look, he rang me a couple of hours after we spoke, or thereabouts. And look, it was a very amicable discussion in that he put his point of view. And look, and I thank him for that. I mean, you would be aware on your show, I said I was quite happy with the generic global apology that he had made. But yes, he did ring me, and I think that issue is well and truly put to bed now.
Right. Did he explain why he needed to do that to Home Affairs?
Oh, look, we didn't get into that level of a detail at all. But, I mean, I would refer everyone back to the statements that he has already made, whether that be on Facebook or at his press conference. And it really is, it's up to him now to determine where to from here and how he wishes to proceed in defending the actions that he took.
Should he apologise to the Australian public?
Look, that really is a decision for him. People aren't saying to me, I think you should apologise to the general public. I know that that's being talked about in some areas, but I think that really the focus of all of us needs to be, how do we make sure that this never, ever happens again? And we shouldn't lose sight of that.
Yeah. A couple of quick union stories here, Karen. The unions want a new deal on wages at next week's Jobs Summit. It wants entire industries to negotiate the same pay and conditions. Does that seem fair to you?
Look, I have been following that story and what the unions have been saying. And look, I thought there was one thing that was very interesting in particular, which is where they were speaking, I think it was Sally McManus who was speaking directly about effectively how things have changed since the current system was put in place. And I would say, and I'm extending clearly the argument here, but yes, things have absolutely changed over the last 30 years in terms of the patterns of work and the way that industry is currently structured. Should that be taken into account in a new enterprise bargaining system? Absolutely. Now, the union's role is always going to be to maximise wages, terms and conditions of employment for their members, but there needs to be a much broader approach. Work is fundamentally different now to what it was 30 plus years ago. We live in a society where there is a lot of online trade. People want availability 7 days a week, 24 hours a day to be able to purchase what they need, to be able to go about their work. So things have fundamentally changed. So I don't think that there should be any cherry picking of work organisation. It needs to be looked at more generally, and it needs to be done in the context of how do we build Australia's economy.
Yeah, okay. Well, one point that's been put forth as to build Australia's economy, the tech industry and again the unions, they've got a plan to fast-track permanent residency pathways for skilled migrants and also get more women into high-paid work. Does that sound like good progress as well?
Look, they're both very admirable things to be having a close look at and pursuing. We need to attract more skilled workers into this country. So I think let's look at what the avenues are to be able to do that. But let's also understand that in the tech industry, there's actually a global shortage of workers. So the issue has been reasonably long-standing about where these workers are going to come from. Yes, I'm all in favour of training more Australians. I'm all in favour of bringing the skilled workers that we need, but there aren't those skilled workers available globally.
Okay, Karen Andrews, the Shadow Home Affairs Minister. Appreciate your time this morning. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.